Today I have a very quick video, or I don't even know how quick it is. I have not edited the video. Today I have a video about how I add contrast bottoms to my Taste Steel totes. So for example, here is a tall Taste Steel with a contrast bottom. And then the one I'm showing you how I make in the video is this wide Taste Steel, and I added this contrast bottom. So here is the difference, one without, one with. You can see that the one with has a lot more structure. It allows it to stand up when it's set down on a table or the floor. For those of us that put our bags on the floor, tisk tisk. Terrible habit, I've heard, but whatever. But whereas the original Taste Steel is just a little bit flappier. The original design, this is how I meant for it to be. I just got saucy one day and added a contrast bottom because I wanted more color in the bag. And so now I do it, I'd say, on 50-50 of the bags. This one back here, I did not do it on, so it just depends on how I'm feeling and who the bag is for and whatever. But yeah, so I thought that I would show you how I do it, so stay tuned. The point of adding the bottom base here is just for added stability, and it makes the bags stand up really nicely, whereas if you make the pattern as written without this base, then it tends to fall and flop because I wanted a nice slouchy work bag design. So I've been experimenting with the box bottom, and I just really love the look of it. It's a great way to add contrast color, you know, the whole 9 yards. But so anyways, the base that I'm going to be making is for a wide, but I will also give you the dimensions for the tall. And so you see it takes up the entire width of the bottom here, and it spans the entire length. So to do a tall a tall Taste Steel tote, boxed bottom contrast, you're going to cut a piece that is 6 inches wide by 12 inches long. And then to do a wide, put that on the ground there. Then to do a wide, you are going to cut a piece that is 8 inches tall by 14 inches wide. And this is totally optional. You don't have to do it, but I am adding a piece of Decaville Light just here through the middle to give it even more stability. But now if you don't want to do that, you could just omit that, and we're going to go as follows. Now for the tall and the wide, we make it the same exact way. So you're going to apply the same process. And so I have my bottom contrast here. So it's the 8 inch by 14. I'm gonna mark right down the center. And then what I'm also gonna do is mark 2 inches to either side of the center, so I know where to center my bottom my bottom interfacing. All right. So now with these lines, I have my fold line, and then I also have my boundary line for my interfacing. And you'll see I cut my interfacing 3.5 inches tall so that there's a 1/4 inch on either top and bottom edge. And now what I'm going to do is attach my interfacing. So I'm just going to iron it directly to the wrong side of my cork. And you can see I'm going to patch mine together. It doesn't have to be one long strip. And I'm just going to eyeball it and center it here. And now I want there to be at least 1/4 inch, if not more, on either side here, so that this interfacing is not within the seam whenever I'm attaching my box bottom edge on the actual bag. Okay, so now we have that adhered, and you can see it just adds a nice stiffness to the bottom of the cork. The next thing that I'm going to do is just put 2 strips of double stick tape about 1/4 inch from the long edge here. This tape is from the Sewing Room in Garner, North Carolina. It is the 1/2 inch double stick tape, and I love it because you can just tear it. So now what we're going to do once we have our tape is we're going to line it, we're going to fold it in toward the center on that center line that we made there. So I'm going to peel my tape off. This is my only thing with this tape. I love this tape for every reason, but it can be a little bit more challenging to peel at the edge, but I think that the rest of its attributes make up for it. But you have to just really make sure that it's stuck down well, or else it won't peel. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just gonna fold this up along, it's a little off, but fold it up, and I want to line that long edge with that middle fold line. And then we're going to do the same on this side, butting those edges up. And what we should get is a piece that is now 4 inches wide. And now if you wanted to save some cork and still have a contrast bottom, you could certainly just cut your piece 4 inches wide, or in the case of the tall tote, you could cut it 3 inches wide, and then you could just finish the edges with edge coat or glue so that the raw edge doesn't fray at all. But this double fold situation, along with the interfacing, just adds a lot of stability, and it provides a really great base. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move to the machine, and I'm gonna stitch right along the center lines here. Obviously you can't see it anymore, but I'm gonna stitch about 1/8 of an inch, or if you want to, you could do 1/4 inch, or you could do quilting all over it. You could really do whatever you want, except I'm not going to stitch down the long edges yet, because we will do that when we attach it to the actual bag. Okay, so because I want to stitch right down both sides of this edge, I'm gonna just align my presser foot on the edge of this fold to ensure that my lines are straight. And then this is what it looks like. Obviously I didn't do contrast thread, so it's a little bit hard to see, but I just have the stitching right on either side of that folded edge there. So before we attach the bottom base to the actual bag, we need to sew our bag panels together. And what I like to do first is cut out my 2 inch by 2 inch squares that's gonna create that box bottom from both my main exteriors. And then I'm going to lay them right sides together and clip them along the bottom edge here. And we need to go and sew. This is where the pattern strays, because normally the pattern would have you stitch down all the sides, but we need to attach the bottom accent before we can do that. But so you're gonna clip into place, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the machine, I'm gonna stitch right across the bottom here, being sure to back stitch well at the beginning and end, and then I'll show you how to actually attach the contrast bottom. All right, so we have our seam stitched here. And now if you wanted to, you could butterfly this seam open and stitch it flat, but I'm just gonna put some double stick tape here to do that. Or actually, I'm just gonna put double stick tape here at the very, no, I'm gonna do it. You know, do it right, right? So I'm just gonna take double stick tape and stitch it right, or lay it right along this stitch line here. So then when I peel it, I can just butterfly this seam open and it'll lay nice and flat. Okay, make sure it's all stuck down. I'm just gonna finger press this just a touch. Sides give me guff. And I'm just kind of applying pressure and pulling on it before sticking this down. And then I'm going to repeat for this side. And doing this step is just going to ensure that when the lining is set inside the exterior, oops, that the lining can sit all the way to the bottom of the bag and it's not going to be resting on top of this seam that would be sticking up otherwise. Okay, so now that's butterflied open. We're going to flip it right side up. And this is where our base is going to go. You can see it fits in there nicely. So I'm going to take some more double stick tape. And with the wrong side, or put the tape on the wrong side, I'm just going to do one strip right down the center here, right over my stitching. And now the important part is you want to make sure that it lays straight. You don't want it to be cattywampus, otherwise it's going to make your entire bag sit awkwardly once it's done and flipped right side out. So if you have a little bit of overhang, that's totally fine, because you have to keep in mind that we have a seam allowance that's going to go on these bottom edges here. And so you're going to align your center line of the, well, your center line of your seam line here. I like to do it right on a ruler line. And then I'm going to lay this lined up on that center line as well. I'm going to peel my tape. And then I just want to double ensure that my stitch line is lined up correctly. And then do the same for this. You're gonna see the back of my head, so sorry. Making sure this is straight is more important than you not seeing how bad my roots have grown out. Okay, so this is now taped down. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the machine and we're gonna stitch down and around the entire perimeter of the contrast bottom. So something important to note is when you're stitching, you want to ensure that your pocket is flipped up and out of the way so that you don't stitch on it accidentally. So I'm just gonna start right here in the middle. And then I'm doing a 1/8 seam allowance here. Okay, now if you wanted to, you could easily add more quilting line across the bottom, or quilting lines across the bottom here, and all that's going to do is just make it even more sturdy. So the more stitch lines you have down here, it's just going to make it stronger and stronger. At this point, you could add purse feet if you wanted to, and then this is what the inside looks like. And you can see, because I taped them down, I sewed right over those edges. I'm just going to finger press these a little better, but here is the contrast bottom from the inside. Got lots of crazy threads on this one. So now the last step to finish up the exterior of the Taste Steel, and again, same applies for the wide or the tall. And honestly, you could add a contrast bottom to any bag using this same method. But the last step that we're gonna do is I'm gonna line up my side seams here and clip. Okay, come on. Clip these. Now, having this contrast bottom, obviously it's going to cause, you know, it's not going to fold as nicely, but what you want to do is just kind of crease it, and then you're going to continue to clip your edges. Just going to clip all the way down. On both sides. Now I'm just gonna go back to the machine and I'm gonna stitch down. I need to do some major thread trimming back here. I'm gonna stitch down both side seams, and then after that we're gonna box our bottoms, and then the exterior will be done. I'm gonna be using my 1/4 inch seam allowance as outlined in the pattern, and I'm gonna be sure to backstitch really well at the beginning and the end here. And then repeat on the other side. Oh, I can see that it's not quite lined up here. And I talk about it in the other video, but something I want to stress as well is when you're making these large bags and you need to ensure that your stitching is straight, which I imagine we want to do on every bag, I like to lay my arm on the bulk of the bag and push, well not push, but guide with my arm, Ouija board. So very, very gently you want to guide, but if you just start stitching, you'll notice that the weight of the bag will pull it. So you want to make sure that this side is still moving at the same pace. And so in order to keep my stitches really straight, I've gotten into the habit of just putting my arm on the bulk of the bag and ensuring that it's moving correctly. And it's not a race. You don't need to sew super fast. Sew at the pace that you're comfortable with. But in order to keep your stitches straight, you're just going to want to keep in mind the weight of the bag. Okay, so now I have my side seams here. And I have a billion threads. I don't know what happened to my little skizzers. Oh, here they are. Trim up some of these threads here. Got an octopus situation happening. But the next step that we're going to do, and I'm just going to stay on this side of the table, is I'm going to fold my bottoms here and box the edges. And I can feel that the very corners of my contrast bottom are kind of folding under. But that's okay because when I stitch, it's going to be at a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to be stitching around that folded corner. But if you want to, you can kind of reach in there or even snip them off. But I'm just going to fold up my edges here and I'm going to line up my seams. You can see the seam, the side seam here and the bottom seam. Get those as aligned as possible. Hello, Druzy. Welcome to work. Somebody's here to clock in for the day, finally. So that is what it should look like. I'm just going to repeat for this side. Following the same steps. So butterflying this top or the side seam open and eyeballing it, ensuring that they're lined up. Okay, so now I'm just gonna, throw a clip. I can't tell you how many times I go to clip and they just fly out of my hands. They're all over. So now I'm just gonna stitch across this, back stitching really well, again, at the beginning and the end at a 1/4 inch. Don't be afraid to, manhandle the bag. One side done, repeat for other. All right, we're gonna trim up some of these crazy threads. I need a darn weed whacker for all these thread tails. So trim up your threads here. It's kind of unnecessary, really, but creature of habit, what can you say? This though is just looking wild. Okay, so now for the fun part, let's flip her inside out, or right side out rather. So I'm just gonna reach in, I'm putting my hands right in the corners. I like to put all my fingers there, and then I'm just gonna push on the corners to pop them through. I'm gonna grab and pull. And then when I push these in, I'm really focusing on pushing those corners out. And then you could see, of course, another thread. Oh, my robot vacuum Gary's stuck somewhere. I can hear him beeping for dear life. I've got to go find him. So this is what the side seam should look like. And then let's check this side out. Here we go. So this is what our box bottom, and then you can see already that it's providing a lot of structure and stability here along the bottom. Ta-da! So now it'll stand up on its own. And then this is what it looks like. What I like to do is just kind of fold my seams here, really crease it, and crease down through here as well. But there we go, boxed bottom on the Taysteel tote. I hope that you guys enjoyed that quick tutorial on how I add contrast bottoms to my Taysteel bags. Of course, all of my patterns are available on my site. The link is in the description box below, along with all of my other links. Please join my Patreon if you are so inclined. Join my Facebook group, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. I will see you guys soon. Bye.